Police forces are planning a crackdown on affluent drug use in a change from the usual tactics of targeting drug dealers. 5 forces in South West England and British Transport Police are taking part in the joint operation over concerns that marijuana, cocaine and other drugs are being used without legal consequences. Alison Hernandez, the Police and Crime Commissioner for Devon and Cornwall, said they want to remind recreational drug users that these things are illegal and make the environment so hostile that they choose not to do it. Well, joining me is the former Conservative London Mayoral candidate, Shaun Bailey. Shaun, I know that this is something that you've campaigned on and spoken about in the past. You've long called for the police to go after affluent drug users. What do you say to those who have a concern that says, you know, an 18-year-old, Shaun, in a job that they've just got after leaving school or what have you, doing God knows what, should they really be penalised for the rest of their lives for making a mistake at 18?
Well, let's look at this in the round. Let's talk about fairness. Let's talk about an 18-year-old boy who grows up on an estate somewhere in this country, feel he has no option but to be a drug dealer. He's about to be punished in that way. So why should anybody else face a different law to anybody else in this country? The law should be the same no matter who you are. And of course, our laws in this country often mean, particularly if it's marijuana, you will not be facing a very draconian sentence that will end your sort of forward progress in life. But for me, the first part of this is about fairness. Why does one community suffer from drugs policy and one community doesn't? That's the first question that needs to be answered. And the police's response to that, remembering their job is to enforce the law, the same for everybody, is correct. They should be focusing on the market, not just the dealers. Drug dealers exist because the marketplace exists. And if you want to reduce drug use, you also have to reduce the amount of people who are calling for those drugs.
Yeah, because I guess many people would think that recreational drug use, you know, it doesn't harm anyone. You're not in the actual sale of the product. But how would you respond to that? Because you actually believe, Shaun, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, but actually, you know, middle-class consumers of cocaine, for example, have got a lot to answer for.
Well, let's test this hypothesis that it doesn't affect anyone. Let's go all the way back to where many of these drugs come from, South America, Colombia. Those countries are known for their massive rates of murder, kidnap, drug cartels. That's the drugs you then hear using in Europe. Let's talk about communities closer to home. How many people who are nice, lovely, polite, middle-class drug users who can afford the drugs? They're not out robbing anyone. But of course, the people providing the drugs are. You are generating that activity. And of course, if you look at London, drug use is so high in London that we're now exporting that crime to other parts of the country through county lines. Look at the young people you're affecting there. The carnage and the war on the streets of London is being driven by people who are having drugs with no consequence. And that consequence needs to be changed. Excuse me, I think the light's just gone funny.
Oh, yeah, flickering there. I do hope no one's got epilepsy, Shaun. Do you actually think this creating a hostile environment, just very briefly if you would, do you think that's actually going to reduce drug use in places like London and the South East?
I think what it'll do will get people to think twice. I've always said to people, you might use drugs, it has no effect in your community. Look at the effect it has beyond your community. I don't believe these people want people to suffer, but that is what's happening. And the police have to enforce the law fairly, so it's the correct thing to do.
Absolutely, and I hope this is a call to get on the streets and off of our tweets, Shaun Bailey. But there we are. Shaun Bailey, former Conservative London Mayoral candidate. I thank you very much for your time and contribution.